Okay. Good morning. This is another test. Ahoy.
Ahoy. Ahoy.
Better than the last time. Who thinks that Prague is the most beautiful city in the world? Come on, people. Come on, people, make me happy.
Right now.
Okay. This talk is going to be a different kind of feedback loop. One that sometimes works and sometimes it's kind of tricky. It's about rapid application development with AppeX, with Cincom VisualWorks, and Google Chrome development tools. Sorry about that. I just hate coming back to the computer to press the wrong key. Okay, we all love Smalltalk. Why? Why do you guys love Smalltalk? Meet 10 different Smalltalkers and you will get 100 different answers. Many answers that I heard over the years is because it's so elegant, so simple, so proactive. Many other reasons, and one thing that it excels at is rapid application development. We all know that. The tools, the methods, the interpretations of what rapid application development really is will differ not only between, within the Smalltalk community, but also at large. We have our Smalltalk favorite workflow where we stop execution, we modify some code, inspect some objects, and then resume, and things magically start working. It's that old analogy where if airplanes would be flown by Smalltalk systems, a landing here would never be a problem, right? We would just fly as long as it would be needed to fix the landing gear. So, can this be done with web applications? It's a little tricky. Rapid application development on the web, those of you who have done web development, you will probably relate. The capabilities are not quite what we are used to. The one notable exception is the Google Chrome developer tools that, in my opinion, are the most advanced. I hope there are no Firebug giggles around here. So what developer tools allow to do is to take a network resource, like http://something.js, and map it to a local file. So if you work on a system where both your browser and your server are on the same machine, you can take advantage of that to some degree. So for example, you can edit and save your local copy of your JavaScript, and your HTTP server should be able to see that change. This is of course not nearly as advanced as we are used to, but things are improving. So when we learned about this, we did something that is still somewhat experimental, but it works, kind of. And it allows the AppeX server to keep JavaScript code synchronized between a Smalltalk image and the local file system. So what you need to do, of course, is to have your VisualWorks IDE on one side and the developer tools, the Chrome developer tools on the other side, and together you can kind of create this feedback loop in a round-trip rapid application development. So our upcoming release of VisualWorks 8.2 has some additions to the AppeX tools parcel. These three classes, I'm not really going too much into the detail. Basically, one is responsible for monitoring all the files and timestamps. When it detects a new version, it will parse it into AppeX and the file composer. ensures that whenever you make a change in your VisualWorks IDE, it will also get written to the local copy of the file. And the parser actor is just one actor that we use in our peg parser to basically make sure that things are correctly parsed back into the IDE. So before you can do that, you need to do some setup steps. These can be accessed through the VisualWorks Systems settings. Under Web Development tab, there is a JavaScript page, and you need to select. I have to make a confession. I am a little red colorblind, so I don't really see the laser that well, but I think that's where it is. The script files, you need to select that, and you should also select the delete script files when switching back to image method, so things can be cleared from the file system. Then, of course, you will need to start your server instance. So, if you saw my presentation, as most of you did, I think, on Wednesday, there was a show of that. It's very easy to do. There's a little icon in the launcher that brings up this web server tool, and you can, clicking on this icon here, you can start a pre-configured server that is based on some predetermined configuration. And in this case, I have all the AppeX examples loaded in my image, and I'm going to start the same application that I was showing the other day, the localized, the hello localized, okay? And so this is just a screenshot of the page. And then what you need to do is, when you are on this page in Chrome, there is a shortcut, or you can use the menus to open the developer tools. And this is basically the window that you will get. So at this point, and I will show it a little bit later in more detail, you map the network resources to the local files, and you can start debugging your application in the developer tools browser, which kind of similar way as you would in VisualWorks IDE. So here is a screencast. I said at the beginning that it's somewhat experimental, and we still experience some the Chrome, the tools kind of change often, and sometimes things break unexpectedly. So I thought that it would be easier to do a screencast than being faced with the possibility that things just don't work. So anyway, I will naturally comment on this as it progresses. So here is the step where I load all the AppeX examples. This is basically a starting point for anyone who would like to play with AppeX. It's load the examples and export the code. At that point, the AppeX tools will also get loaded. So here is where I check. This is the directory where my image and my change file, and you can see there are no other files than the two. Okay, so let's continue. I do the setup step where I go to the web development. This is the directory you can specify, and it's relative to the directory that I just showed you. I select that I want the script files and delete them when I'm done. And at this point, you can see the scripts files has been generated, but is empty because I still haven't really accessed the resources and didn't allow the components to generate or to copy the local IDE source code into the file system. So I'm going to start the AppeX example server. As you can see, it's very simple. It's all pre-configured when you load the examples. So here I started, and I launch the web application in the default browser. Okay, so here's the Czech version of it. Now let's go and play and change the language tags in the web browser development tools. Okay, this might be a little too long. Okay, come on. Yeah, okay. So at this point you can see the source code, but it's only the network resources as they have been pulled down by the browser from the server. So what I need to do is to add a folder to my workspace. And at this point, you already see the files are there in the local file system. So I just select the file. This is an important part where the DevTools requires access to your local resources. That's basically, at this point, you are breaking the standard web browser security model where you have to give an explicit permission for it to access these resources. Okay, so you can see the files are now here under this scripts folder, and by mapping one to a network resource, everything in that folder gets mapped as well. So I don't know if you noticed, but the files that were, yeah, you can see them all. So the files that were originally in here are now in this folder. And now we can go and change some code. So I'm going to put a breakpoint and reload the application. Now, theoretically, this should work without reloading, but I found it so brittle in Chrome that, as I mentioned already, and I will probably do it a couple more times, it's more reliable if you reload your application. Okay, so let's just continue. And note the debugger controls at the top, the resume, step over, step into, and so on. So you can debug your code there, and those who have done these, forgive me if I'm stating something obvious. You can also inspect your objects, right? So we will just resume here, and see we have a whole bunch of tabs. So let's modify them, and because we are in post-Brexit time, we just don't care about the British anymore. Sorry, Neil, we care about you. Okay, and the browser will show that the source has been modified. So you change it. I mean, you save it. It's now locally saved on your hard drive. You can also, at this point, this is just a little detour. You can use an external editor, and obviously this is not something that the Smalltalker would prefer to do, but our aim is to make this somewhat attractive to JavaScript developers. So maybe that could be enticement. And the oops, we did. So now we see that the NGB, ENGB language tag is now gone from the page. Okay, right. So we can also have a look at the changes that in our comparison browsers. So obviously you will see the change there. That's not surprising. It's just showing that it has been applied in the IDE. And here we can check the code itself and modify it right there back to what it was, or just say we don't care about the English language anyway. So let's remove them all. And obviously, the Chrome should detect the source has changed, as it does. And when we reload the page, not only all the English language tags are done, but also you can see that Chrome asks you if you would like to reload the network resource. And when you do, things get applied. Now, the JavaScript objects can be quite easily inspected in console. You can modify them, you can use pretty much the same thing that we do in Smalltalk browsers, except not as sophisticated and not as cool. All right, so we'll do one more edit in the developer tools. We'll change everything back and save the file. And when we refresh, things are back to where things were. So basically, this describes a typical rapid application development scenario where you already have some code, you want to make some changes to see how things would work if you do this or that. And if you like what you did, of course, you need to publish your changes, but that's quite beyond the topic of this talk. Other than all the menu and mouse clicking, you can always activate it with programmatic use, so you can add that into your startup script or whatever. As I mentioned several times, so there are some challenges with this whole thing. One thing that we find especially puzzling, and we are kind of still fighting with this, are platform-specific line and conventions. And I know it's simple. It's Windows CRLF, it's Linux OS X, it's just LF. It should be no-brainer. It turns out to be a little more complicated than that. So hopefully in a couple of weeks or months we will have a solution to that. Basically our situation now is that we have to have two different versions of the code. One works on Windows and one works on everywhere else. But it's not really that surprising. Currently only Google Chrome has this capability, so you know, it's experimental and it's not likely to be widely adopted yet, but all the developer tools are evolving quite fast, which has a good thing, but some bad things too, and that is what I mentioned, that some things that have been working for quite some time, suddenly you do your auto-update and things break. So again, that's the life we chose. It is still not quite immersive as we like being Smalltalkers, and that's obviously for Smalltalkers it could be a source of frustration, but it is workable, and we hope that things will just, thanks to feedback loops and other things, that they will just keep getting better. So, to summarize things up, Rabbit, yes, of course. I'm already thinking of like what I'm going to eat on the weekend. Rapid application development means different things to different people. We are extremely spoiled and extremely lucky in the tool set, and this whole conference was just, I guess, testament to it. I have seen so many interesting and new tools, and I'm really thankful to be part of this community because it's very exciting. I think the rest of the slide does not need any commentary, so yeah, this is it, and if you have any questions, feel free.
Do you have documentation on
on this. I believe there is something in the release notes for VisualWorks 8.2, and we also have class comments that explain things how to do. I don't know, I'm not sure if it made to the official web development guide that is part of the documentation. And if it didn't, it would be because this is still kind of a little bit of work in progress.
Okay, because if I want to experiment, I like to go to that document.
Yes, yes, yeah. And you know what? Write down my email. If you want to experiment, just shoot me a note. Yeah, we are here for our customers, and we are really happy when we have new things like this, that people try them out and give us some feedback. Any more questions? All right. Thank you. Enjoy your coffee break.